Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of an anxiety series. In this video we're going to talk about how to work with an anxiety on a deeper level. And before we dive in, I highly recommend watching part 1 of my anxiety series, where I explained how an anxiety develops and what it's actually trying to tell you. And usually anxiety appears in our life for one of three reasons. Reason number 1: your life is moving in the wrong direction. 2: your life is moving in the right direction, but your nervous system and your brain don't have map for it yet. And reason 3: if past negative experience or trauma been triggered. In part 1, I also explained how to manage an anxiety if it's 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, so you can bring yourself back to reality and think clearly again. And in this video, we're going to work with an anxiety on a deep level. So we will be learning how to examine our thoughts and how to rewire our brain so it can manage an anxiety more effectively. However, if you experience severe anxiety, social anxiety, or any kind of phobias, I do recommend working with a therapist who can work you through the process. Or you can contact me for a free and confidential chat where we can discuss whether I can support you as a registered counselor. You can also find my free anxiety toolkit in the description down below. Let's go. The only science-backed approach for working with an anxiety long-term is cognitive behavioral therapy. This is where you examine and challenge your anxious thoughts. In the first part, we learn how to notice an anxiety, and in the second part, we examine what actually caused them. For that, you have to describe all your thoughts that make you anxious or what you are afraid of. You have to take a piece of paper and write down all your thoughts regarding that. For example, you're afraid of public speaking or meeting new people. So you take a piece of paper and write down, for example, I will look stupid, I will stumble, I won't know what to say, I've never done it, I don't consider myself smart to do so, and so on and so on. And after you've done that, you have to run all of those thoughts through reality check. And the best tool to do that is cognitive restructuring. 13 questions you must answer honestly. You will see all of those questions in the screen right now. Please pause the video and write down all your answers. How did you guys go with cognitive restructuring? Please let me know in the comments down below. So, after you answer all of those questions, you have to form new, more realistic, more balanced thought. For example, I thought I would fail at public speaking, but this thought came from fear, not facts. I've never done it before and I've never taken classes, so of course I feel unsure. If I practice at home and take a few lessons, I can improve. I can also ask for support from people I trust. This is how cognitive restructuring works. You teach your brain to think more clearly. But what can happen that after answering all of those questions, you realize that your fear is actually realistic. In that case, you move to the next stage, building a strategy to solve the problem. Now we move into brainstorming. Write down all the possible options that could help you in this situation. And for each of these options, list pros and cons. And as you do that, you'll usually notice that one of the options doesn't look as bad as you initially thought. So take that option and break it down into small, manageable steps. It is important to remember that one of the biggest reasons why we fear anxious thought is because we don't know what to do in this situation. We don't have a plan how we will act if the worst case scenario actually happens. And very powerful technique for that is called catastrophic scenario technique. I know it can sound scary imagining worst case scenario, but it actually builds your tolerance to anxiety and you learn how to confront it instead of avoiding. So now, please take your anxious thought or belief and imagine the worst case scenario. And here are 4 questions that can help you with that. So, what is the worst thing that could happen? What negative consequences could come from this worst case scenario? What can I do if this actually happens? What else could I do if things get even worse? Please put on pause and write down all the answers. After you've talked through the worst case scenario, after you have met your fear in your mind, now it's time to meet it in real life. Here we're working on reducing your avoidance behavior. We cannot overcome an anxiety simply by thinking about that. Our brain learns new behavior through new repeated actions. This is how we form new neural pathways. That is why now we move to exposure therapy. Here, what we do is we build hierarchy of other anxious situations from 1 to 10. For example, you have an anxiety towards public speaking. 1 can be speaking to someone you know. 2 can be saying toast on a small family gathering. 7 can be registering for public speaking event, and so on and so on. This hierarchy will be individual for everyone, and each step has to increase in difficulty. Before executing each stage, an anxiety may show up again, and that is completely normal. For that, you have to use tools from previous steps. For example, you got stuck before, like saying toast on a family gathering. You feel anxious about that. What do you do? First, again, you identify all your thoughts regarding that. Then you run it through reality check for your cognitive restructuring, and only after that you move to exposure steps. Yes, it can take time, but it is effective, because this is how you teach your brain that you can actually handle this situation and this anxiety. The last thing we need to talk about is what do we actually do with the remaining anxiety, because all of those tools we discussed are designed to bring you from negative state back to 0. If you imagine emotional scale, when you experience an anxiety, you might be at -5 or -6, and when you use these tools, when you learn how to manage an anxiety, you move back to 0, to neural state. And usually the next goal is to move from 0 to positive state of mind. But before that, you have to apply all of those tools, learn how to manage anxiety, and so on and so on. And usually it takes a practice. But if you want, in the next video, I can teach you how to move from 0 to this plus state of mind. Thank you so much for watching part 2 of an anxiety series. I hope you understood your anxiety on a deeper level and you learned practical tools you can use in everyday life. Just remember, anxiety is not life sentence, and once you learn how to manage it, how to work with that, it loses its power. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.